Thanks for being with us. Most people with flood insurance buy policies backed by the federal government's National Flood Insurance Program. By one measure, as of April, less than 1/6 of homes in Houston's Harris County had federal coverage. That would leave more than 1 million homes unprotected in that county. For those who have it, here's what's ahead from Loy Vickers, CEO of Empire Public Adjusters. Loy, what should folks be doing?
You need to start putting together a list of what you actually had. And, it would be a little, crazy to think that you're going to be able to have receipts for all that stuff. Depending on how high the water was and if there was current coming through your house, you may or may not still have some of that stuff in the house if windows or doors were left open. So putting together a list of what you actually had is going to be beneficial whenever you get to the contents portion of the claim. Then from the standpoint of the house or structure itself, let's say you've got some wind damage to it. According to the terms of the policy, you're supposed to mitigate any further damage as soon as it's safe to do so. So if you've got missing shingles and that type of thing, you're going to need to get somebody up there to get tarps on the roof and that type of thing so that you're not fighting the insurance company with, well, you didn't mitigate this damage and we're not going to pay for this, that, or the other thing.
All right, so does it matter to the policyholder, in this case, when filing a claim, which came first, the wind or the rain or the flooding? Is that relevant in all this?
It will be relevant. We call this the chicken and the egg syndrome because it typically happens in every single big storm that we have like this, is the insurance company always asks which came first, the wind or the flood. And they're doing that strictly because a lot of these people, and you've probably seen this in the news, that a lot of people didn't have flood coverage. And so if it can be attributed to floods, they may not have to pay it. And so you need to get somebody who's experienced and well-versed in putting these claims together so that you can argue that point. And if you have coverage for it and it's legitimate, you want to make sure that they understand it's legitimate coverage, that it's compensated for correctly.
Boy, what's a reasonable amount of time for some of these folks to pull stuff together and file claims, especially given the fact that it could be days, if not longer, before they're allowed back in their homes?
Right. Well, I want to say this because in Texas we have some blue tarp legislation that's coming into play. And in reality, it really doesn't affect what we do as public insurance adjusters, but because we're advisors to the policyholder, it really needs to be expressed that any claims that are filed prior to Friday of this week, which is September 1, when this new legislation comes into effect, will be grandfathered in under the old laws. And like I said, it doesn't really affect what we do as public adjusters, but in the unlikely event a claim is not settled and it has to go to suit, it will affect the payout for interest and penalties and that type of thing that are added to some of these things. And so, we have a responsibility to tell people that if they're not aware of it. And, you can file a notice of claim right away. If you're unable to do that, you can contact our office and we can help you do that because we have access to all the emails and fax numbers. We're happy to do that for people. We're not charging you for that. It's just something that we're doing so that you, in the unlikely event you need it, it's covered.
Thanks, Loy. That's Loy Vickers, CEO of Empire Public Adjusters.
The city of Fort Worth is taking in its first round of Hurricane Harvey evacuees. Firefighter Kyle Clay says people will be bussed to the Wilkerson Grimes Athletic Center and routed to other shelters from there if needed.
This particular facility is capable of 300 evacuees, and we're expecting to be able to contain 1,050.
The Fort Worth City Council will consider adopting a disaster declaration based on the high number of people relocating to the city. After the floodwaters recede, many thousands of Texans will turn to their insurance companies for help, and some will come away empty-handed.
Suffering home damage from natural disasters is devastating. To make matters infinitely worse, many people don't even know what their insurance policies cover, and flooding may not be.
In the old days of you buying a policy and expecting to have everything covered without you going through it specifically line by line are over.
Insurance adjuster Loy Vickers says it's very important to know what you're buying and to review your policy at least every 2 years. Dave Williams, KLIF News.